reasonable price, you know, to do what you need to do indoors, rather than just not knowing, or somebody else not knowing how to do what I'm doing. So you can switch to the next slide.
We're getting them on Zoom.
Oh. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yep.
So first thing off, we're going to talk about the soil mixture. I think everybody kind of already knows the basics of the soil mixture. I have everything listed here. The soil that I like to use is Fox Farm Ocean Forest, which I have pictured over there to the bottom right. Worm casting is another, you know, general thing that anybody can use if you don't want to use soil. It's less of a medium. It's more just straight organic if you want to just get straight to the point, compared to just like having extra stuff like bark and perlite and all the other stuff in your mixture. Pumice is a great addition to it. Holds water very well. Just very good for aeration in your plants, which everybody needs. All the plants need air. If you don't have good aeration in your plants, they're just gonna pretty much suffocate. I pretty much just dealt with that yesterday. I was gonna bring a plant here and it rotted because I tried a whole new soil mixture and I just overdid it with the dirt and it just died. So your best friend, in my opinion, is perlite. Everybody likes to use pumice and lava and all this other stuff, but perlite is the lightest substance that you have available. It's very reasonably priced. You know, you can find it anywhere. Not a lot of people sell pumice. I could recommend you a place to go buy it. You can definitely find it on Amazon. It's a little bit more expensive. You don't know the right person to buy it from on Amazon. So you don't necessarily need to use all of these elements in your soil, but you can. And the reason why I brought these show plants over here is to show you that you can grow different species with all of these, you know, elements in your soil, rather than just being like, people like to, I guess, dive very deep into it and you want to grow like in habitat and stuff, but to me, growing in a habitat is just gonna make your plant grow slow. We don't want to wait 40 years to see it get to that size, you know what I mean? I want to see my plant grow in the next 5 years at that, you know. Luckily, I'm still young, so I can see it grow, you know. But anyways, mycorrhiza powder is a very good thing to use when repotting your plants. It just has that beneficial bacteria in there. So when you repot your plants, you just put that, make your little crevice in your dirt, you sprinkle that in there where you're gonna, pretty much where your roots are gonna touch the dirt. Always make sure that your soil is moistened before you pot your plants up. So when you sprinkle that in there, you just stick your plant's roots directly in there, add some more dirt over it, put your top dressing over it, leave it alone for 2 weeks to a week, depending on what your temperature condition is like. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. Go ahead and go to the next.
So where are you getting that powder at?
Oh yeah, you can buy it on Amazon. It's I have the name up there.
Oh, right there, duh.
Yeah. So that's, if you want to screenshot it, that's the brand that I use. I pretty much use like, I guess, a 1/4 tablespoon per pot. That's around the roots. But I do like to use it when I'm mixing my soil. So depending on how much soil you're making for however many plants that you're going to repot, just mix it in there. Just mix it all in there, because it's pretty much just adding extra food to your soil, and it just jump starts the roots. Like, rather than kind of just waiting on them to adapt, it just gives it that extra boost just to adapt like right then and there. It just helps with them wanting to absorb the water a lot better as well. The more roots you have, the more water they're gonna want to absorb. Another thing I like to add is, when you're potting your plants up, instead of just kind of putting all the dirt in there and just filling your pot up completely with dirt, put perlite at the bottom. That's what I like to use, because it's just very, like I said, very light, and that's like the best way to know when your plants are dry and when they're just ready to be, you know, watered. Just picking it up, rather than just kind of, you know, just having it in these ceramic pots, which are like really heavy and stuff. Yeah, they're pretty and all, but plastic is kind of the way to go in my opinion. It's just better just to know, like, okay, like, it might not look the best, but at least you'll know, like, keep your plants from dying. It's a better way to say it. You go next slide. Now I'm gonna talk about how to build your setup. Pretty much, I just go to Home Depot and I buy, I think it's the HDX shelf. It's like 4-layer shelf. It's $65.99. They got various sizes, and from 2-tier down to like 5-tier, all the way to like 4 feet wide. This really depends on your budget. That's just what I like to use. It's made out of metal. It's not like those plastic ones that they sell. They're like $20 cheaper, but those aren't really they don't really seem as sturdy, so I would just stick with the metal. This is Mylar. So this is pretty much what like paramedics like to use. Like if you were to come out of like freezing water, they'll wrap you in Mylar and it just insulates your heat in your body. So I like to use the Mylar and wrap it all the way around and just leave the front open so that you can get some air in. And it just insulates the heat a lot better because you can see the lights, how I have them on each level. Obviously you can put a fan up. You don't necessarily need to have a fan, but air circulation is key. Right now I'm running them without fans. I just have ceilings in there. I just have my ceiling fan on, just letting that go. Obviously you'll just need tape just to tape the Mylar down to the poles right here. Lights that I use. The top lights are Mars Hydro. Those are very reasonably priced compared to like other brands that you can kind of go look for. You kind of really just need to do your research on really what's best for you. Like those lights I think they're like $50 a piece. So, but they don't have an adjustable diode on top, so you can't really adjust your light intensity with those. But I tend to grow smaller plants on that top shelf so that they can be, at a reasonable height rather than just trying to adjust things all the time. Like, so like the medium size plants I have, obviously, on the second shelf, you can see there's more space in between that one compared to the top one. The bottom shelf is where I like to grow all my seedlings at. I have my heat mat down there. You necessarily don't need heat mats, but the more heat, the better. Obviously, once you get everything set up, you're gonna need plants to put on your shelves, obviously. And like I said, it just depends on where you're growing. If you can go to the next slide. I like to keep my AC vents closed. So majority of people, when they grow indoors, they're growing by a window. You don't really get necessarily a lot of sun in your window. This is like I said, the best option for me because I'm on the back end of my apartment, so I just don't get no sun. So I need to get some type of light, and I can't really keep that AC vent because then it's just gonna keep the soil moist. Just keeping it cool in there. Like, yeah, you need fresh air coming in. Just leave your window open. You can get you like an exhaust fan. I didn't picture it on there. You really don't need it, but an exhaust fan will help. You can get that on Amazon as well. And you can get you the ones where it's you got an outlet and then you got your inlet. So it's pushing air out, but it's also pushing air in from the outside. So as long as you got that little bit of air circulating in there with your ceiling fan and that exhaust fan, you'll be pretty much fine. But like I said, you don't necessarily need the exhaust fan as long as you got your ceiling fan going. And if you do want to keep the AC vent open, I would just keep it open maybe like just a tad little bit, just to where it's like not really cooling your room down as much, or even if you don't have a room, just kind of keep it away from the vents. I know everybody wants to keep it right under the vent because they want to get that air to their plants, but your plants they don't need that cold air all the time because then you're really going to stretch your plants out. You're going to be getting hot temperatures from your light, but then you're going to be getting cold air in from your plants. So it's kind of going to just like stress out your plants. Like I really know what to do. You know what I mean? In fall, I like to open the vents because like I grow a lot of like aerial carpets, and those are more like fall pollinators, or they just like to bloom during the fall. So when the fall comes around, I'll tend to open my vents a lot more, but only at nighttime, because that's really when the temperatures obviously get colder for everybody is at nighttime. So if you want to do that, just open your vents, just like I said, just a tad little bit. You necessarily don't need, like I said, the heat mats. The heat mats will help if you're not really producing that much heat. It all depends on what type of brand new light you're getting. I recommend, like I said, it was on the other side, the Vivo Sun and the Mars Hydro. Those produce the most heat that I've used from experimental lights. There's other lights that you can use. If you're growing ceilings, you can necessarily get you like a cheap little Amazon light for like $20 and just let that thing grow, because they don't necessarily need all that heat like from the light. They'll get the heat from the heat mat, which is where they need it the most for their roots to want to just go into that dirt and just want to start drinking up all that water so they can grow. When they get older, they can kind of tolerate a little bit more or less than what your seedlings can. Your seedlings, you can have them go below like 80, and then you can just end up killing off all your seedlings that you just sowed. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference when do you use a heat mat versus a Mylar wrap?
Well, the Mylar wrap is more or less just for your lights, so they're not just dispersed just everywhere. The Mylar is it's a reflective insulator, so when you wrap your shelf around it, it'll pretty much just be like, this will be your front end opening, and you're gonna wrap it around the back end. And so all that heat is just gonna stay within this area, rather than like, just like having this opening, your light's kind of just going over here, back there, and it's not directly getting onto any of your plants. You're pretty much just losing light, and you're losing heat, rather than if you use that Mylar, you'll keep everything insulated, and it'll just keep your plants thriving, because that's what they need. They need that heat.
So you can't see them then, huh?
No, you can see them. That's literally how it is. That's the front of the.
So you just grab one the back and the sides or whatever?
Mhm.
Okay, I got you.
Because you need, because like I said, I have my ceiling fan on, so that air, my fan is probably about right here where the second square is, and it's just pretty much blowing down. So it's like they're getting some type of air, and you could fully wrap it if you want. But what I would do is just like make slits in the front so they can at least open it. 'Cause you're gonna have to get in there and water it and stuff. But this is just a better brand. Now you can find cheaper Mylar, like the ones that the paramedics use. You can get you like a pack of like, I think 5 for like $10. But this is a whole roll. It's like 4 foot by 25 feet.
Yeah.
So, and that goes a long way. It's only $20 compared to just, and it's very thick. It's just very durable compared to just the cheaper stuff. I learned just not to cheap out on stuff. I know we all like to save money, you know, in every which way we can, but when it comes to taking care of something that you love, you want to spend the money on it. I know I do. I mean, it's, as you can see, I spend too much money on this stuff. So yeah, you can go to the next slide. And like I said, temperature, that's as long as you keep it above 80, I think you'll do just fine. Buy you a thermometer. Obviously you can see, like my shelf, it's reaching 100 degrees right now. That's, you know, and it was 24% humidity. So that goes to show how much that Mylar just increases that temperature, because I was only reaching like 85, 86 without the Mylar. So, I mean, yeah, you don't necessarily need it, but these are just things that I'm recommending for you to get the best out of what you're doing.
And they like the 100?
Yeah, they love it.
Do you mind to share a few pictures later on
Yeah.
Facebook about the setup for the Mylar?
Yeah, I couldn't really fit the whole thing in on the slide for some reason. It wouldn't take the whole picture. You can go to the next slide. Knowing how much light is enough light. Necessarily, do you know what you're growing? Are you growing seedlings? Are you growing mature plants? What are you trying to grow so that you know how much light that your plant actually needs? Like I said, seedlings necessarily don't need it as much, but I'm using a weaker type of light, so that's why I kind of have the inches lower, like 6 to 8 inches. That's necessarily where I keep my lights at. The lux on it, it was 400 to 600 ppfd. The lux is 23,000 to 30,000. Honestly, you really don't even need to know any of those numbers. You just go by the inches. That's the best way to describe what you want to do, is just go by like the measurements. When you buy your lights, they're gonna have a description of all that on there for you, so that you can kind of already know, like, all right, well, if it's at 12 inches, it's gonna be super intense. If it's at 14 inches, it's gonna be less, it's gonna be 18. So it's gonna get less intense the further away you get from it. But the less intensity is obviously gonna lose more heat. You know, you gotta think, yeah, you're heating this up, but then you also want your pot to get hot as well. That's why I recommend that Mylar, so that everything is just getting heat, rather than just like not having it. And only your plant is just getting hot, and your pot is just staying cool, and then that soil is not drying, and then you get I literally just dealt with that the other day, so I really don't want any of you guys to have to deal with that. You can get you a light meter. I forgot to bring mine. It's really, you can get it on the phone app. It's called, let's see, it's called Photon. You can get it on your Google app or your iPhone app. This is pretty much what it looks like. So you would just have to buy the little attachment. I forgot to bring it, and you just go to whatever type of measurements you're trying to measure your lights in. If you're gonna do par, you're gonna do lux, whatever it is, and you just kind of just stick it under your light like this, and it shows you. See how it's kind of reading it already. But if you want to be super accurate, you need to buy a light meter. That's if you want to go the extra mile to do all that unnecessary stuff that you really don't need to do. Like I said, I kind of already have everything here for you guys, so if you stick to the light brand that I tell you to go with, rather than just kind of just going with something I don't really know much about, you know, it's kind of more or less you doing it on your own rather than following my instructions, you know what I mean? So these are my ceilings that I've brewed. They were, I think, less than a year at this point, and obviously you can see they're doing quite well just under like cheap Amazon lights. You know, like I said, you don't need the super strong, intense lights until you get to probably about this age, which is more mature, between like 3 to 5 years old to obviously higher. You're gonna want to spend more money on those plants for those, so you need those lights. Like I said, this all depends on what exactly are you growing. I don't know what you're growing at home. You know, we're all growing different things. We're growing euphorbias, succulents, whatever Aerocarpus. I brought numerous plants of every different species so that you could see almost anything is thriving in the conditions that I put them in. You know what I mean? So, because there's people that have a misconceptions that I've heard where they think that older plants don't do very well indoors. But as you can see, I got probably like a 20-year-old Aerocarpus right there that's been, you know, growing indoors for 3 years and it's still alive. So it's like, you know, don't listen to like what somebody else has said because they've gone through a failure. Don't necessarily put yourself in that position to be like, oh, I'm gonna fail as well just because they failed. You know, like you just gotta keep on striving. Just, you know, that's all a part of the game. Is just you're gonna grow, plants are gonna die. You know, I've been lost thousands of dollars in plants. You know, and yeah, it sucks, but this is just a passion that I love. So I'm just gonna continue to keep learning and keep growing from where I failed.
Does Sarah know that?
Oh yeah.
She knows that.
She might not know how much I spend.
Okay.
She knows somewhat of what goes on in my cactus room over there. So I have a 3-bedroom apartment, so it's pretty easy for me to just be like, keep that one vent, you know, closed because nobody's in that room. It's just plants in that room, you know. So I'll go sit in there and it's like 100 degrees. I'm sweating in the room. Like, she's like just sitting in the AC in the other room, just chilling. And I'm like, you wanna come in here? She's like,
No.
I'll come in here. She'll come in here to tan for a little bit, but then she'll get straight out the road. That's what I'm saying. Like that Mylar wrap is like your best friend when it comes to like wanting to grow on the shelf. You're like, you don't really need it, but if you want to get the best out of what you're going with, get the Mylar wrap.
So are you you have your shelves, you have to put a light on each shelf or every other shelf, or what do you have to do on that?
Yeah, I have a light on each shelf.
Okay.
I kind of went above and beyond with what I did. Like the second light, which it was a bigger light. That light was I think almost like $200. But like I said, you don't really need that. The only reason I got that one is because I just wanted to try a different brand, and that light was a little bit longer. Rather than putting, like if you go back to the previous slide, I think it was, or the one before that. See how I had 2 lights? So when I went and got that second light, it just covered more coverage compared to just me putting 2 whole lights, or putting, you know, the 2 whole lights right there. But I wanted it to be super hot, so that's why I put the 2 lights up there. You don't have to do what I'm doing like that. You could just put 1 light there, 1 light there, and 1 light on the bottom. Like I'm just going above and beyond, trying to do the most basically.
So fish tanks, we use the lights too. I mean, the blue and the white, the red spectrum. So I don't know if those, Night Crew is the brand I use. They work out really good. So I don't know if they'll be cheaper or more expensive. I don't know what brand. I mean, if Night Crew would even work for that. Because it's all photosynthesis from plants in the water.
Mhm.
So it's gotta get through the water, and it's supposed to stronger.
Yeah.
And I know John's got salt water, so he uses lights too.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't
Well,
know.
see, like the lights that I've seen, the majority of people with aquatic like stuff, they're using more like the reds and the blues, like you said. That's kind of more of the like old style of LEDs. Everything's kind of more like it still has the reds and the blues, just not as much to where it just looks like red and blue lights. You know what I mean? Go ahead.
I have a question. So the distance is what you're saying is the most important, the amount of inches between the light and the plant. So for example.
I'm measuring from the top of the plant to pretty much the bottom of the light. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'll put my measuring tape from here to like and then just see
So
where
for
it's at.
mature aerial carpets, how many inches do you keep them from the lights?
With this one, I think they were at, well, there's not really any aerial carpets in that, on that shelf. I would just say it really depends on the size and like obviously the size of your pot. Younger plants, I could have it a little bit closer because I just feel like the younger plants can take a lot more heat. Like not younger as in ceiling, just like the 3 to 5 year old because they're just thriving. They're wanting to grow. They're wanting to grow. As they get older, they kind of stop growing so fast. So I would just go with 12 to like 14 inches. But like I said, it all depends on what light brand that you buy. You know, I don't know the light brand that you're buying. I don't know what, you know,
I
the
have Mother.
intensity.
Most of my lights are Mother.
Oh, which brand?
Mother grow light. Mother.
Oh, okay. See, I've never heard of that one.
They're not adjustable though, like.
Yeah, see, these weren't adjustable either, but they just, from looking at other brands and stuff, they come from China. They produce very well heat compared to like, and then you can't really tell from this picture, the way that they were designed, they kind of had like panels kind of going around the edges to where it directed the light downwards, rather than it just being a flat light like this. It kind of just disperses outwards. It has no direction to go down. I was trying to get the lights to direct downwards because I didn't know about this Mylar until I saw somebody on Instagram that had it, and I was like, man, what are y'all using? Like, what's that installation you had? He's like, oh, it's Mylar, and I was like, okay. And I was like just trying to figure out how to reach like 100 degree temperatures indoors, rather than just having it like sitting at 80, you know. And it's like I just wanted to pump them up as much as I can, you know. And a lot of the stuff I get is imported from Thailand, so they need that heat. Thailand is very hot out there. It's 100 degrees, you know, it might be raining all the time, but it's probably still 100 degrees while it's raining. You know, so you want the best conditions for your plant to thrive in when you're doing it indoors. Compared to just like I said, outdoors, we've already had like how many different weather changes in the past week already,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
I think that's why my plant died, is because I was acclimating them from indoors to outdoors, so they weren't even getting as much light as they were getting as they were indoors. And necessarily, yeah, I did switch the soil, but I think if I had kept them inside where they were getting constant, you know, heat, probably wouldn't have died, because they would have just ate up all that moisture that was sitting in the soil, rather than I just went outdoors this year and it was only in that soil for like 3 weeks and it just rotted like that fast. It was solid for the whole month. I touch my plants every day. That's something that you need to do as well. Touch your plants. Always make sure that they're solid. Even if they're like feeling a little squishy, you know, don't just go straight off and water them. You know, you could buy you like a moisture meter. You know, they sell those on Amazon as well. I forgot to bring that too. It's just a little meter. It's like pretty much just like a metal rod that sticks down and has like a little meter on top, and as soon as you stick it in the soil, the meter is gonna go left or right. It's gonna be like dry, it's gonna be wet, you know. So yeah, it's just however much you want to invest in, you know, it's really all up to you guys with how much you want to invest in what you're doing. This is my love, this is my passion, you know. I just want to, when I get into something, I just dive deep into it. Whether it's like food, plants, you know, a baby, yeah, you know, I'm diving in. I want to know everything about it so that I'm just not going in blindly. Because there's plenty, I bought plants from people that were growing indoors, and being a beginner, I didn't ask a lot of questions. I was just afraid to ask questions to anybody because I didn't want to look like just a beginner, I guess, you know, or just feel dumb, you know. But you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't feel scared to just ask somebody a question, you know. Like, we're all here to learn. That's the whole reason we doing this presentation. I want people to experience the best that they can experience, because like I said, not everybody has the space to do something outdoors. So we all have space to do it indoors, the majority of us. So we all got a little corner somewhere in our house or our apartment where we could just go throw a shelf up, throw some lights up, put your plants in there and just watch them grow. You know, not everybody wants to be outside in 100-degree weather just looking at their plants. I know I don't every day, but regardless, my room was 100 degrees, so I couldn't escape it, regardless of where I was at. If I was outdoors or indoors, it was hot. You can go to the next slide.
So you got the lights on the timer then?
Yeah, that's another thing, having them on the timer. I was doing, it was right there on, go back. In the ceilings, I was doing 18 hours on, 6 hours off. And then once you get to out of the seedling stage, I would do 6 to 8 hours. Fall, I would switch to 4 to 6 hours. That's because I was trying to get my Aerocarpus to bloom. I got a lot of Aerocarpus, so I was trying to get everything to bloom, you know, at the same time so that I could just produce seeds. Obviously, if you're gonna grow indoors, you kind of want to mimic. You don't really necessarily need to mimic the outdoors. That's just what I was trying to do. I wanted to just to be able to, because like my Aerocarpus were growing indoors for 2 years, but not everything blooms every year. That's another thing, you know what I mean? So I was just trying to get them to bloom because I was seeing other people with similar species blooming, and I was like, oh, well, they're growing outdoors, so maybe I just need to adjust my time and then my temperature, bringing it down at night, because obviously in the wintertime it starts getting cooler at night, so then that's when they start to want to produce their blooms. So you necessarily don't need to do any of those steps. All I would just worry about is your distance from your light to your top of the canopy. Make sure you wrap it in Mylar. You don't need heat mats or anything. If you just want that extra little bit of boost, go ahead and get heat mats. Get you some fans. The fans, you can find those on Amazon as well. They're like 2 for $20, you know, and they're just easily plugged into your little USB charger. And they're a magnet, so you can just mount them onto your pole. You don't have to like tie them up or anything. They just stick right there and they'll just blow onto your plants.
Under these lights, do you ever see your plants getting like a red or purplish stress coloration?
Yeah, so that's another thing. If you're trying to keep certain colors going, like I've bought several plants that came, like especially Aerocarpus that came purple, or just variegated, like that little astrophytum. I've learned that the more heat kind of keeps that going compared to like not having enough heat, because then they'll just go back to their normal, I forgot what it's called. They'll just revert back to just wanting to be green. I have a Aerocarpus that was literally just doing that because I had it indoors. Like I said, I just switched outdoors, so it was like probably 6 inches from the light on that top shelf, because I wanted it to get that intense heat to keep that variegation going. And it was sitting outdoors for 2 weeks and it's already turning back green. Wow. So then now I'm like, all right, now I'll just put you back indoors, and I'm hoping that it starts back yellow. Because it was actually pink at the bottom, and then it was going yellow, and now the new growth started coming green. So it's just like, I was gonna picture that in there, but then I don't really feel that it was necessarily wanting to put that in there. Because not everybody wants to do that kind of stuff. That's just something that I wanted to do. I don't want to just like put everything that I'm trying to do and try to get you guys to just duplicate exactly what I'm doing. Because not everybody wants the same outcome. You know, some people might not like the purple or the reds in their plants. You know what I mean? I do. It's just something cool. You don't normally see a purple Aerocarpus, and if you can keep that trait going, obviously it'll hopefully carry on to your seedlings. You know what I mean? So that's another thing, stressing out your seedlings. I've done that as well, keeping the lights like super close and using double heat mats to where it kind of overlapped each other like this. And I would have my Aerocarpus seedlings sitting on that double overlapped heat mat, And somehow it just like really stressed them out to where I got some variegation going on some of my seedlings, and those are like super hard to just come across, or even to want to buy it from somebody. They're not gonna want to come off that. Like, if you do, you're gonna spend like a few $100 on something that's probably like the size about this big. Like, I bought one that was I think $150, and the light wasn't intense enough. It started turning back green, and then it ended up dying on me just because I just overwatered it. So, you know, just like I said, just if you could follow these basic instructions that I'm giving you, you should be pretty well off on what you're doing. You can go to the next slide. Watering schedule. Everybody likes to know how I know when to water my plants. I kind of don't. Like I said, plastic pots are your best friends. They are the lightest pots for you to just know when to water. Just picking them up, easily picking them up. Not everybody likes to mess up their top dressing. That's why I didn't really want to bring that moisture meter, because that was just something that was a pet peeve of mine. I'm very like a perfectionist. I don't like stuff looking all like dirty and stuff, or all like messed up. So when I would use that moisture meter, it usually would always just remove the top dressing and just make it look all messed up. But this is just the basics of like a 2-inch pot, which is I have a displayed over there. I go every 2 to 4 days, 4-inch pots, 7 to 10 days. Anything bigger like that ceramic pot I have right there, I would do every 2 to 3 weeks. Like I said, just get you a moisture meter. If you don't have plastic pots on hand, or if you just already have them potted up and you don't want to repot something into a plastic pot, that's your best bet, is getting you a moisture meter, or just kind of just writing down things like I watered it on Monday, and maybe water it next Monday. You know, learning to write things down is another good, you know, thing just to do. I've learned to just start trying to write everything down, because we tend to forget things. You know, I've been planting like thousands of seeds lately in this past year, and I'm like losing track of stuff just because I wasn't writing things down. You know, I'm just like, I'll write it on the bag, and then I take them out the bag and I threw the bag away. So I'm like, well, damn, what the hell am I growing over there now? Like, I know what it is, but I don't really know what it is because there's no tag there. So pH in your water is a really good thing to do, especially when you're fertilizing. I don't know if any of y'all were here during that fertilizing program that we had a couple months ago. There are certain substances in your soil that when you fertilize, if you're not keeping it at the right pH, it's not going to intake any of that nutrients that you're giving. It's just going to sit there. Your plants is pretty much going to end up killing your plants because it's sitting there around the roots. So 6.0 to 6.5 is pretty much my recommended where I like to
pH. What's Houston's pH?
It really depends. I've heard some people say they have like 9.0. I think mine in my apartment is like 10.0.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty high, so I like to use reverse osmosis water. I know it's kind of bougie to really go out and do all that.
Pretentious.
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of just go above and beyond what the average person's gonna want to do. You know what I mean? I go out to my watering place and I go take like a 5-gallon jug and just fill that thing up with water, and then just walking back up 3 flights of stairs, and there's my watering for my plants. But like my outdoor plants that I don't really care much about, those just get plain tap water. But my babies, those are the plants that I'm like doing all this, you know, like trying to just keep everything on a regiment schedule, you know. If you don't know what to use to obviously adjust your pH, this is called pH up, pH down. Look it up on Amazon. The pH down is a jug with like a yellow liquid, I'm not yellow, it's orange, and then the pH up is blue. You obviously have to get a pH meter, but like I said, I know people that water without having to do all that kind of stuff, and their plants are doing just fine. These are just things that I like to do, and I would like for you guys to do as well, just to get the best out of what you're doing, you know, so.
There's also the theory that if you start them with the right, what you already have, then they don't want the other.
Yeah, that's
I
exactly.
mean, so with fish, if they're already born in Houston water, then they're okay with like discus.
Yeah.
Okay, discus, too expensive. But before it was water change every day. Well, now they've got way away from that and they made the fish hardier.
Mhm.
On the seedlings, if you start them with regular Houston water,
Mhm.
if affect it or not? I mean, that may be an experiment for you.
I can't really say that it would affect it. The best thing to do, and in my opinion, is just knowing, like I said, just ask questions. Like when you're buying a plant from somebody, like especially if you're importing it and stuff, like it's good to know just like, yeah, like, oh, let me ask you, what's your soil mixture? Obviously they're gonna use something different over there because their weather is different. They use a lot of like cocoa core and peat moss and just like more organic, you know, substance and stuff. Just more soil over there because obviously they're getting heat compared to like here in Houston. We might have rain for a whole week and then it's just kind of cool. So, you know, it's just knowing what you're getting into. You don't want to just go buy something and just be like, oh, well, let me just treat it like how I've done every other of my plants. It's not that. I mean, you could do that, but just why would you want to just treat it like anything? You know, these are your babies. You want to, you know, you want to take care of them. This is why you're buying these plants. You want to see them grow up just like you want to see your kid grow up. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm gonna just feed my kids some junk food and then they're just gonna get fat, you know? Like, you know. So, and then, like I said, just picking up your pots, just feel how heavy they are. That's just the best. Go ahead.
What about fertilizer?
That's gonna be on the next slide. You go. Pesticides and fertilizers. So this is generally, these are all your fertilizers. These are your pesticides. Fox Farm Grow Big. That's what I used to use in the beginning for the first 2 years. I don't think I have it pictured up there. Yeah, but you can find it on Amazon. It's like $20 a bottle. That's generally just what I was using because when I got into plants in the beginning, I was kind of intrigued by my neighbor at my old apartment. He was just like growing all kinds of random stuff, but his stuff were just like freaking huge. And I'm like, was just getting into the whole plant community. And I'm like, man, how you getting your plants so big? Because I would just water, and I'm just like, well, man, my plants aren't getting as big as yours. Like, what are you doing? And he would just tell me that, oh, I'm using this fertilizer, and it was the Fox Farm Grow Big. It's pretty much just a basic tomato fertilizer. I always recommend doing a half dose because they kind of always recommends like a higher dose. I think it's like 14 or 10 milliliters per gallon, something like that. I would do like 4 per gallon. Just to start the plants off, you know, slowly. You don't want to just introduce them to something just like full on, just like bam, and it's just like straight in their face, and they're like, oh, I can't handle all this. You know, it's like you're trying to give them steroids, and you know they never had steroids in their entire life, so it's just like Peter's 2020. That was the one that guy had brought during that presentation 2 months ago. It's like a blue granular, looks like powder, but it's just throw it in your water and it just kind of dissolves in there and it turns into a blue liquid. That's what I use now. I haven't really measured exactly what I use. I kind of just going off of what the scoop that he gave me. I think I'm not sure how many milliliters it is, but like I said, just start off, the lower the better, you know, and you kind of just gradually go from there. But it all really depends on how much you really want to pump your plant up. If you want it to just like go and get like super big really fast, you might not want to start off like super low. Because if you're already fertilizing, you know, and just switching it over to something new, it's just always best to just start off low and then just kind of gradually go up from there. But you don't necessarily need to just keep going up. If you like seeing your results with it being at that lower dosage, just keep it at that dosage. Don't mess it up. Like just keep it simple. Like how everybody says, keep it simple. Just don't switch it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what my wife told me earlier. She's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Because I was just talking about how I changed all my plants into some new soil, and she's like, well, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, I saw somebody else's plant growing super well in it, so I was like, well, let me try it out. And then look what happened. I lost the plant. So it was like, not necessarily what works for that person doesn't necessarily work for you. That's why I say, just kind of take, you know, and do with what you want to do with the little information I give you. You don't necessarily need to follow all these steps and do everything that I'm telling you to do. Do what works for you and kind of just mix in, you know, a little bit of like whatever I'm telling you to do. Like if your regiment's working for you, just keep it however you're doing it. These are just other options that I'm giving you that you can really just use if you want to use it at your own expense. You don't necessarily have to do all these things that I'm telling you to do. pesticides. I like to use this Advanced Insect Disease. It covers powdery mildew, rust, millies, etc. Scale. Scale is kind of really a hard thing to deal with just because scale always gets underneath your plants. So if you have like an aerial carpet, which is just very creviced and tight and stuff, they're gonna get all in there and they'll get in your fuzz and stuff like that. So just really inspecting your plants every day, every night, I've learned is another way to see bugs, because recently I dealt with like an infestation to where I didn't see no bugs during the day, but at nighttime when I went in to check my stuff, I started seeing like thousands of little bugs just like crawling around, and I was like, what the hell is this? So once you locate where those bugs are coming from, then you'll have your best bet of like fighting them off. If you don't find where the problem is coming from and you're just spraying, you're just gonna continue to deal with that issue, because these bugs, they've just like, as soon as you kill them, they've already laid eggs. So that next batch is already kind of coming up, you know? So unless you figure out the source of your problem, unpot your plant, look at the soil, your dirt, and see if there's any bugs in there, then kind of just spraying them and putting all this stuff, you're not really doing anything to fix your problem. My issue was mixing my seedlings with my older plants. I had, because a lot of my seedlings are in just pretty much complete organic compared to a lot of my older plants are in very much organic material. So a lot of the pests come from that organic material, which is just sitting in your dirt. Yeah, you can sterilize it and stuff, but if you don't have like a granular pesticide in your soil, they're just gonna grow. This is dirt. This is the bacteria that's in there, and they're just gonna grow. Don't use too much of it. Like I said, half dosage is what I like to start off with my pesticides, just because I've never used that brand before. I wasn't really even using pesticides when I first started off with plants and stuff, just because I was just so nervous of just killing something. I would just always repot it and just try to put it in new soil and sterilize it in the microwave or in the oven, but then eventually it would just occur again. Starkle G is a granular pesticide that I've learned that works really well. A lot of the overseas growers, they love to use that stuff. It's like a pink substance. You have to really get it from overseas. They don't sell it here in the United States. Working on trying to get some here so that I could, distribute it to all you guys and stuff. That bottom picture over there was one of my astrophytums that I had noticed had an infestation, because, like I said, I had mixed in some of my seedling plants with some of my more mature plants, and I was just like spraying everything. I did like a super strong dosage on it, just because I was like, man, I got so many plants. How am I gonna just figure out where this one problem is coming from when I'm looking at like 100 something plants? And when I would go in there at night, I would just go in there with a light and just looked at literally every single plant until I saw whichever one had the most bugs on it, and I'm like, all right, so I guess you're the guy right there. Took that little guy out, but that was already after the fact that I had already sprayed them. So when I had sprayed them, I oversprayed them, and the plant just rotted and died. So always just start off low. Half doses is the best way. Just half or even less than half. Give it time to work. Don't just be like, oh, I sprayed it today and then hope for tomorrow that they're just dead and gone. Like that's not how pesticides work. Like you gotta at least be patient, wait at least a full month. Like I didn't really start seeing results till probably like a week or two in of just spraying them, but I was doing it very frequently. I think I was doing it maybe like twice a week or something like that. I can't really remember. Like I said, I didn't write that down, but I should have. So I just repotted everything. So now that everything kind of already got sprayed, I'm kind of like starting over fresh, just because I repotted everything all over again. Because I had dealt with that one plant that rotted yesterday, so I was just like, let me just change everything up again. Like I said, that could be your plan if you don't listen to what I'm telling you. So just don't overdo it. I know everybody wants to just like kill, all the little bugs that are on your plant, but just be patient. Let it work its magic. It'll do what it needs to do. I didn't even use any of this, but once I figured out what the root of the problem was, and I excluded that plant and repotted that plant, the problem went away. Like everything is finally clear. I don't even use any of this right now. Everything just kind of just, I guess, worked its magic down into the soil, and just, if you don't find out what that problem is, you can kind of just keep dealing with it. Like I said, you'll be the next time. That's pretty much it.
Any questions?
Oh, just one real quick. How long have you been growing them inside?
3 years.
3 years.
Since 2019. Yeah, because like I said, I live in an apartment, so the previous apartment that I was in, it used to get a lot of sun, but once I moved to this new apartment that we're in now, we're like on the back end, so we just don't get any light at all. I just wanted to get the most out of my plants, so that's why I just like transitioned indoors, because I just seen several people just getting, good results from being indoors and just having this certain setup with like shelves and lights, well, I mean, that seems pretty simple. Just go buy a shelf, buy some lights, like I said, you don't need much space. You only need like 2 feet in the corner, and that's plenty of space to work with. So that's just how I just started off just doing it. And I just kind of just ran with it. It was working well, so I didn't really feel the need to just want to go back outside, like when I'm not getting enough sun. The only reason I did it recently is because I just wanted to experiment. I was trying to just see if there's a difference in being outdoors rather than being indoors. So I already got enough data from 3 years of it being indoors. I want to see if I see any difference with it being outdoors, because everybody wants to grow outdoors. Outdoors is superior, I can say that for sure. But don't let people tell you that you can't grow anything indoors. It is possible to grow indoors. Like I've been doing it for 3 years, and I'm still doing it. I'm just only doing seedlings indoors right now. All my mature plants are all outdoors right now. We got a baby on the way, so I just had to make space. Had to save money somehow. Like my bill was like $300 a month because I was running like 6 lights at a time in that room. I had 3 shelves all at once compared to just having like 1 shelf. You know what I mean? So it's doable. Don't be afraid that your light bill is going to go out the roof and stuff. That's just what my light bill was, because like I said, I was just doing the most. I wanted my room to be hot, so I just put as many lights in there as I can to produce that heat. Because you can produce that heat on the shelf, but I wanted the whole room to be hot. So like I said, I was just
Turn on the
like,
air conditioner.
that's why I say close your vent, So I kept that vent closed. I had like 6 lights running in there, and it was literally 100 degrees in that room in an apartment. So
But you got the humidity down to what, 40%, 24%?
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
That's low. That's low.
yeah.
Desert low.
My house is like 55.
Yeah.
And I got fish tanks too, so that makes it.
And that was without even having fans on. Like I said, that was just only the ceiling fans.
That's impressive.
So,
55 is good for your tropical,
Right.
but plants do like humidity though, because especially like younger plants, that's what creates them to grow, is they need the
Yeah, so
humidity.
younger,
But
they
they're in
want the
bags at
humidity.
that time when you're growing them, so it's like, doesn't really matter. The less humidity, the better for me, in my opinion, just because if you're just watering your plants, yeah, it's gonna go up, but you don't want just that moisture just sitting
Right.
in that room, because then it's just, you're just waiting on something bad to happen at that point.
Are you, for your seedlings, are you doing domes with trays with domes, or are you doing baggies? How are you doing it?
I do bags. I meant to bring that as well. I was gonna bring some. I just had too much stuff. I was like, I can't just bring everything. Like, I want to show you
Why
guys.
not?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, I want to show you guys everything, but it's just, I gotta pray to the wife. I can only carry so much. So.
These are an excuse.
Yeah, because it's like I said. I mean, that was the main thing I should have brought, because I just wanted to just see that, like, people think that like growing cactus seeds is hard. And I used to steer away from it in the beginning, because when I had asked my neighbor, I was like, "You ever try growing things from seeds?" He's like, "No, that shit's hard as hell. I'm not gonna do that." And I was just like, well, I'm gonna take on that challenge. Like, I don't want to go spend hundreds of dollars. At that time, I didn't want to go spend hundreds of dollars on a single plant. So I was trying to buy seedlings and just grow everything myself from seed. And then once I kind of got hooked on the bug, I was just like, okay, well, I'll go spend $500 on that plant. Like,
So all these are under the lights then, round table, correct?
these all been under the light for the past 3 years. Just this year, I just recently moved outdoors because, like I said, I was trying to do the presentation and then I kind of got shut down. So I was just like, well, let me go move everything outdoors so that I could do a presentation on outdoors. And, like, since y'all didn't want me to do it on indoors, so.
I said the indoors is good for the winter time, you know, because a lot of people will bring stuff inside, so.
And that's one thing that I've dealt with recently since it's been raining a lot. Normally, I would have to move everything in every time because I didn't want them getting wet. I didn't want them just like getting hard grown look and all that. I wanted to keep everything pristine. And recently, it just rained and it was super windy and I had plants fall over and I'm like, this is why I was indoors. Like I had to deal with none of this. Like you don't have to deal with any of that. You just watch them grow. You know, just sitting in your room, you know, watching TV, whatever you want to do.
Is it okay with you if you put your slides on the Facebook page or
Yeah.
Instagram or whatever's best for that?
Yeah, definitely.
Good, good. So we
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody in the little